Good morning, and thank you for welcoming me into your home today. This month, my son Nathaniel turned 31 years old. 25 years ago, when he was just 6, and I was a pastor in Texas, I had a standing invitation 4 times a year to preach for a Presbyterian retirement community in Dallas. It was located 1 hour from my home. It was on a Sunday evening, and I would make the drive 1 hour each way to preach for this community. One particular Sunday, my son, 6 years old, said, "Daddy, I would like to go with you." And so I buckled him into the back seat, child safety seat. We made our drive to the retirement community. As I was talking to my son on Interstate 35, I was so engrossed in a conversation with him that I missed the exit, and I became very angry with myself. I said, "Nathaniel, your daddy is angry. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at me. You did nothing wrong, but I missed the exit I needed to take. And the next exit is not for another 20 minutes. And by the time I get to that exit and turn around and come back, 40 minutes will have been lost. I will not make the worship service in time. I may as well go on home." Nathaniel said, "No, Daddy, you can still go." I explained to my son, "No, I cannot get there before the service starts. It will be nearly over by the time I arrive." He said, "Daddy, let's go anyway, because we can at least tell everyone that we love them, and that is more important than your sermon." So I made the trip to the retirement community. We got to the service about 10 minutes before it ended, and my son and I, we stayed outdoors of the chapel and allowed the service to end. As the doors opened and the people began to exit, I stepped aside and allowed my son to hug every individual that came out of the chapel. And every one of them, he said, "I love you." One woman who had just received a hug from my son walked over to where I was standing, and she had tears in her eyes. And she says, "Pastor, the words your son just spoke to me, the most powerful sermon I have heard in years." Well, in 2 months, that 6-year-old boy, now 31, will begin his theological studies to prepare for the ministry at Princeton Theological Seminary. And I submit to you that as he begins his ministry in about 3 years, at the completion of his studies, he will not preach a sermon as powerful as the sermon he preached 25 years ago in a retirement community in Dallas. I love you. First letter of John, we hear these words: God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. It just may be that during this period of shelter in place, we can love more deeply our children and our spouse than we've ever loved them before. Pay attention to them. Become involved in their life in a way that perhaps we have not. Pick up the phone and call a dear friend or a family member and just say that you want to hear about how they are doing, and love them deeply. We may discover that as we begin to love more deeply and richly than we ever have, God will take up residence in our lives. Thank you, and I look forward to being with you on Sunday morning.